Meredith, our man Jay Leeson keeps track of these outside influences. He's host of The Other Side of Texas on AM 580 and in a recent contribution to the Dallas Morning News. Good to see you again, my friend.
Good to be back.
Empower Texans and Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, the whole laundry list. Who are these people? What do they gain by trying to push out one Republican for another?
You mentioned a couple of them.
Yeah.
It's a cadre. I mean, whenever you say empower Texans, whenever you look at state government and state politics, you have to mention Texas right to life.
Mm-hmm.
You have to mention Texas for fiscal responsibility. You got to mention the think tank from where a lot of this comes from, and that's the Texas. What do they call it? The Texas Public Policy Foundation.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of four-worded organizations involved in this, and Texas Homeschool Coalition, to be frank, right here in Lubbock, Texas. And they use this network of what's deemed as pro-life and what's deemed as school choice, and it's this network that takes aim at certain people, and they use to say, I 100% agree with Seliger there and with Price there. It's deceptive tactics. If we had a room full of 40 people, and I said, who can tell me how many seats are in the state Senate of Texas? I would be shocked if 6 of them could tell me that. Because people, by and large, don't pay attention to state government because we hadn't had to, because there hadn't been these kind of influences involved historically. And now we're to a point where we've got to begin to pay attention, and the Panhandle did pay attention.
Generally, historically, the more money behind a campaign, the better chance of it winning. So why didn't it work with Seliger or the others here? I think I read that Empower back candidates went like 2-14 Tuesday night.
Yeah. What was John Mark Blue, columnist of Admiral of Globe, said Tuesday night for Empower Texans was like Abraham Lincoln's night when he watched Our Cousin America. Things didn't go well. No disrespect.
Yeah,
but it's a good analogy.
Poorly. Yeah.
They did do terribly, but the Panhandle, and some could argue East Texas, 2 regions in which Empower was really engaged. The Panhandle is the first mid-market, including Lubbock, the first mid-market to really take on Empower before it was too late. And they did that through some media advocacy in the Panhandle. And I would certainly put myself in that camp.
Sure. Yeah, you're on
just
top
to be
of that
absolutely
thing.
transparent.
Yeah.
Because I've seen the effects of it where I live. But also they made the teachers mad. And it's not a good idea to make people mad, a group of people whose job it is to explain and educate people.
Especially in rural areas like that. True. Now, it's not just political action groups, I guess, here. Kind of in the back way, the governor, the lieutenant governor have sort of lobbed some help into some of these races to try and influence legislative races in the setup here.
Well, it's because my friend Brandon Darby, Breitbart, Texas, wrote a piece last week entitled "Rural GOP Leaders Wouldn't Kiss the Ring of a Billionaire." Now, others might, but these rural leaders did not.
So has any of this influence pushed its way into Lubbock County, or is this just state races?
Well, it's been here. It's been here. I mean, if you go back and you look at Charles Perry's 2014 senatorial race, Texas Senate race, you could argue that a third to half of his donations in that campaign came from groups like this and its allies. Now, that sets up an interesting situation coming off of 2018. Can there be a name that jumps in that Senate race right here based out of Lubbock, where there's 40% of the votes in Senate District 28? Can you get a Bill McKay to jump into that race? Will Bill McKay, a well-known name, well-known family name in this community, or maybe Mayor Dan Pope by that point says, I've done what I can do at the city. If there's a community that's suspicious of an incumbent, at least a third or half of its fundraising coming from these very groups, then you could see quite a race.
Bill may have a problem doing that now, though, because of the backlash that we saw in the Lubbock County races. He was not particularly enthused with any plans to, cut things off at 4%, and there's been a taxation question that the voters threw back at him.
Well, I think that you could. It's funny to hear these guys talk about, well, I'm going to be all for 4%, but I'm also going to get all these roads done. I mean, that's what you call borrow and spend conservatism. That's where that's going to lead to. And Lubbock must, if Lubbock leads the way with all these rural counties, if Lubbock goes in and says we're for the 4% cap, those problems in those rural counties where we talk about cartel activity, where we talk about a lot of unseemly problems that they can't deal with because they're already too cash strapped with all sorts of mandates that aren't funded from the state.
Mm-hmm.
And those problems, there is no cattle guard gate around Lubbock County. Memo to Lubbock County Commissioner.
Jay Leeson is on top of all of it for us, keeping track of everything. Good to see you again, my friend.
Is that all the time we have?
It always goes
We need to do
fast.
an after show.
We do. That may be a plan. Coming up, the other important vote this week took place in Austin and will very soon change the way we pay for electric power in Lubbock. LPNO's official move to the new power grid. Next on Talking Points.
The age of 35.